This is my Cannondale Super V, and to me it's a special bike. It's the typical story of the bike you wanted as a kid but was unable to afford at the time. Adjusted for inflation, you'd pay around $4,000 today. It was sitting at my local thrift store totally wrecked. It was obvious it had been sitting outside, which is a death knell for any bike. I decided there and then that no matter what, I would get it back up and running again. What I lacked in skills at the time, I would make up in patience and persistence. So a little about Cannondale's background. Cannondale started selling bicycles in 1983 with the Cannondale ST300, with ST standing for Sport Touring. After this first bike, they quickly expanded their lineup and established themselves as high-quality provider of both racing and mountain bikes. And they were one of the first selling bicycles specifically designed for off-road use. The 90s are generally considered the golden age of mountain biking. A lot of companies, Cannondale included, came up with great innovations and great looking frames. And it's in this era that Cannondale's Volvo racing team achieved many successes, establishing Cannondale as a pioneer and innovator in the mountain bike industry. If you ask me, they've since lost that iconic status, and a great era in cycling ended when they were the last big manufacturer of bicycles to move their operations overseas and away from the United States. The Cannondale Super V ran from 1993 to 2002, and this one from 1994 is part of the first generation of Super Vs, which is characterized by having a massive aluminium rear swing arm. It might not seem like it now, but in the early 90s, apart from the fact that full suspension mountain bikes were anything but commonplace, the unique looking frame of the Super V was truly otherworldly and awe-inspiring compared to other bikes on the market, especially for a 13-year-old like me at the time. In the end, I either repaired, restored, or replaced each and every single part that's on this bike. The biggest project was hand sanding the entire frame, spraying it in the Cannondale blue team colors of the late 90s, and applying a fresh set of decals. The front suspension is a Hatchcock Fatty D with 60 millimeters of travel from 1998. It started leaking oil and was totally rebuilt. The Fox Vanilla coil damper with 2 inches of travel was still working fine after more than 2.5 decades. While working on the bike, I came across unique looking Coda XYC super light bullhorn handlebars. They only came out in 1994, the same year as the bike. And these type of handlebars were very short-lived and are pretty rare indeed, but to me, it definitely adds a certain uniqueness to this build. I had to replace the grip shifts because they couldn't get past the curve of the handlebars, and I swapped them out for new old stock Shimano 3x8 speed Dior XC trigger shifters, which are also from 1994. The gray and black paint of the Magura HS22 hydraulic rim brakes was badly scratched up and flaking. I sanded the brake levers, pistons and clamps, after which the brakes received new hoses and were properly bled. I renewed the entire drivetrain, replacing the cassette, chain rings, and bottom bracket. I sanded and polished the original Dior XC crankset, and the bike runs a period correct Dior XC derailleur in the back and an LX front derailleur. One of the very few modern day upgrades are the DT T-Mac flat pedals. I'm a purist at heart and try to achieve that original feel as much as possible, but one thing you will not see me do is running caged pedals. One other modern day component is the gorgeously machined silver Thompson Elite seat post. Atop it sits a Coda 1000 saddle. The bike had 2 different wheels with different tires. I threw them out and replaced them with blue anodized Rolf Dolomite wheels from 1999, Where a normal wheel would traditionally feature 36 spokes, the Rolf Dolomite wheels would feature 24 spokes, front and back. This was a revolutionary technology at the time. The rims feature Panaracer Smoke and Dart 2.1-inch width tires, and this is a beautiful reissue of the Smoke and Dart from the 90s. And the fact that these tires come in a true skin wool version makes them a very obvious choice for any mountain bike restoration project. And I added 2 black Patrikios shuttle cages and attached them to the frame using blue anodized wolf tooth component bottle cage bolts. Restoring a bike taps into the notion and necessity of being able to create rather than consume. There's something extremely rewarding about fixing a bike that somebody else left for dead. Besides the skills necessary to perform all the repairs, it also involves a certain dogged determination and perseverance for someone like me who's far from being an experienced bike mechanic. But the greater is the joy of being able to experience all that hard work, knowing you have preserved a piece of mountain bike history.